Jamie, what are we going to do? The HQ is cracking at the seams. There is so much. The news tubes are full. They're getting clogged. There's interns getting lost in piles of paper. I have no idea where Ian is. He's under some of this somewhere. I'm
Ian, the news inertial dampener can't work anymore. It's ridiculous. We're doomed.
Jamie, what's happened to you? You seem to have become Scotty meets Dad's Army.
It's a bad Scottish accent because my real Scottish accent isn't real enough, apparently. Don't worry, Ian. I'm no a miracle worker, but I'm doing the best I can.
Look, Jamie. It's fine. We'll get the interns to put some paper mache on the outside of the HQ. That should keep the integrity going while we go to the studio. We'll deal with the cast, get the news levels down, and hopefully that will resolve everything. And by then, the cast we won't have exploded.
Yeah, but you can't break the laws of game physics. You can't just put papier-mâché on it and call that a Kickstarter exclusive miniature.
Well, I'm sure some companies have tried.
Hi, sorry, don't know what happened there. Hello, it's me, it's Jamie Adams. Hi there. And I'm with Ian McAllister.
Hello there, everyone. And this is Brainwaves episode 53, bringing you the best in board game and tabletop gaming news. These are the headlines for the week of 20th of July, 2020. The bell tolls, again. Wizards conjure up more controversy. And Old Lang Syne, as prominent games designer, gets suspended from Twitter. All this and more on this episode of Brainwaves.
I would like to go into the headlines, but that pun was both dreadful and amazing, so I've got to give you props for that, Ian.
Thank you. It's my basically one job around here.
Well, you say your one job. Anyway, yes, on with the headlines. First one. Now, we have talked a number of times about Golden Bell Studios.
Boo.
Ian, please, impartiality here, please. They've had many various dealings with games companies regarding Kickstarter, and now they've decided to forgo Kickstarter completely and set up their own crowdfunding site called The Giving Tree. Now, Golden Bell have previously been banned entirely from the Kickstarter platform due to
numerous violations. I think when we covered it last, it was to do with the Unbroken Kickstarter that had all sorts of problems with fulfillment, and Golden Bell have been involved in some really big fulfillment issues through Kickstarter, and Kickstarter eventually just got fed up with them and kicked them from the site. And they've also been banned from Board Game Geek for basically threatening legal action against people in forums.
Well, they have their own crowdfunding site now. Part of the new platform includes a rather strict contract which locks partners into a perpetual inability to criticise Golden Bell.
I can't even begin to imagine why they'd want that, Jamie.
There are only a few projects up on the site right now, mostly for tie-in merchandising for shows like Lost, well, hit that up-to-date market. Nice one, Golden Bell. All the projects so far are from Golden Bell themselves. And I had a wee quick look through the projects just before we started recording. There's a few backers for each one, and a lot of them are ongoing campaigns, which sounds kind of like pre-ordering product.
Yeah, I had a wee look around the site, and there's a lot of big donations from very few people to make projects look complete. And this is obviously pure speculation on my part, but it looks a bit weird. I mean, it's a sort of thing you'd if you saw it on Kickstarter, you'd think it's a bit weird. So yeah, I am not sure. Obviously, we're going to say here at Brainwaves that you should avoid this site at all possible costs, because Golden Bell don't deliver properly and are really litigious and just not a very nice company to work with by all accounts.
I was going to be a bit more diplomatic and say they have a slightly storied reputation, but the opinions of Ian McAllister do not necessarily represent those of the Giant Brain and Brainwaves as a whole. If you have any complaints or correspondence, please mail them to @Ian McAllister. Speaking of Ian McAllister, Ian, I believe you've got a story now.
On our last cast, we mentioned Wizards of the Coast a couple of times with their diversity statement and also parting ways with a particular artist after accusations of sexual harassment. The Wizards have experienced a few more employee troubles of recent. On July the 3rd, Wizards of the Coast employee Orion Black announced on Twitter that they had quit their job. Orion is a black, non-binary writer and was working for Wizards for about 5 months. Orion issued a statement relating to their own experiences on working on Dungeons & Dragons and calling out the company's recent diversity statement that we reported on. The statement is pretty long, so we're not going to read it in full. We'll obviously link it to our show notes. In summary, though, Orion said that engaging on social media with people that were critical of Wizards of the Coast could lose you your job, that they had to go looking for jobs to do within the company, and that they were not nurtured like other white writers. Some of their work was stolen, that Wizards do not listen to the voices of those who call them to task on issues of diversity and representation, and then release a statement saying they have to do better on such matters. Orion's statement got a show of support from all over the gaming community, including that of Greg Tito, who's Wizards' senior communication manager. Tito expressed regret for the way things had gone down at WotC, and it was being taken to the highest levels of the company, quoting from his tweet. A conversation between Tito and Sharif Jackson, who's the DM of popular actual play podcast and show Rivals of Waterdeep, revealed frustration from Tito at Wizards' lack of diversity at the top of the company, a conversation he has been trying to have for many years. This is not the only time Wizards has come under fire for its lack of diversity and inclusivity in recent months. At the start of June, Zayam Beg, a prominent Magic the Gathering personality, formerly of Channel Fireball, released a statement accusing the company of further racist leanings in their hiring and creative practices. WotC have issued an apology to Orion on July 10th, naming them specifically, which kind of indicates that they are aware what happened was not acceptable. That said, their apology has been considered to not go far enough at this stage by a lot of prominent figures in the Dungeons & Dragons community, with many calling for actions and not words. We'll bring you further updates as the story evolves. Lots of controversy coming out of Wizards right now. They've released statements. They have recently, for just today, we found out they were looking for a senior manager of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Put a link to that in the show notes and you can read exactly what they're looking for. Whether that's an actual move to make some things happen within Wizards or just for show, that's up to for folk to speculate. Hopefully, as more of these statements come out, as more pressure's put on Wizards, they will change their attitudes, they will change their hiring practices within, and by the sounds of it, some of their actual operational practices inside the company. Yeah, we will bring you more on that as the story evolves.
Well, if nothing changes, then there will be some more vocal backlashes from the community, and it could go far as thing like boycotting of Wizards of the Coast products, or just you could see a notable drop if the things they say they're going to do don't happen.
Yeah, and because Dungeons & Dragons is so reliant right now, I mean, it's so popular, but it's so reliant on streamers, YouTube stars, and podcasts and actual play to be out there and be visible and be bought. If that community rails against it because of what they're not doing, then that could be very bad for Wizards in the long run. Jamie, there's been prominent game designers being booted off Twitter for a brief period of time.
It has been quite a controversy. Now, on the 8th of July, the designer Eric Lang, who is head of design at Cool Mini or Not Games and creator of such games as Blood Rage, Rising Sun, and the soon-to-be-released Ankh. Now, he has done a lot of other ones as well. He's done, for example, XCOM, the board game, which I think Sam told me was very, very good. He mentioned it at some point on his multi-dimensional transition.
I played XCOM board game and it is good.
I would like to try some more Eric Lang games. I don't know how many I've actually played. Anyway, Eric Lang's Twitter account was, I believe the term is soft-blocked. It was suspended, basically. Now, in a post on Facebook after the ban was lifted, Eric Lang said that he had been banned because of a concerted effort by a particularly toxic Twitter account and its followers mass reporting him. Now, in a post on Facebook after his ban was lifted, Eric Lang said that he'd been banned because of a concerted effort by a particularly toxic Twitter account, and its followers were being used to mass report him. Now, he'd been picking up followers from this account, and being a person of colour, recognised that the best thing to do was to mass block them before things got out of hand. In doing so, he warned his followers that this was happening, at which time things began to happen and the dogpiling occurred. Now, this is not a new instance of people of colour, women, LGBTQ plus individuals who are subject to this kind of harassment, and I will speak for everyone at Brainwaves and the Giant Brain, and this is appalling. Yeah,
absolutely. Just absolutely horrible behaviour. We're not naming the Twitter account that was responsible for the dogpile on Eric. If you go and look, we'll be sharing Eric's post from Facebook, but if you go and look around the internet, you will be able to find out what happened quite happily, but we're not going to give them the air of publicity. The Facebook posts are worth reading. Eric is very, very good about writing about this kind of thing because he's had decades of dealing with this kind of thing himself, unfortunately, so he writes very well about it. I would like to read from the very last part of his first post that described what happened. And to serial harassers and trolls, listen up. You are insignificant, you are powerless, boring, predictable, and pitiful. And at the end of the day, you do not matter. Well, after some quite heavy headlines there, let's head into the news. And our first bit is a little update on a story we previously covered in episode 42. In that episode, we talked about a dispute between Mythic Games and Pascal Bernard, author of Time of Legends Joan of Arc. In an update on 15th of July, Mythic Games announced an agreement had been reached between the two parties. They cannot go into details, but the 1.5 version of the rulebooks and all associated bits and pieces will be released either late this year or early next year. The original dispute was pretty complex, involving multiple companies, buying of companies, all sorts of things, but the nub of the matter was that Pascal had a contract that said he had rights to confirm rules changes for the release of the 1.5 version of Joan of Arc. And more importantly, he was due 6% of the net sales of the game. Obviously, we don't know exactly what the agreement has now been that's allowed them to move forwards. We'll bring you a wee update if we hear anything more. Jamie, a famous artist, has unfortunately passed away.
Yes, I'm afraid to say that the artist and illustrator Jim Holloway has sadly passed away. Now, he was a self-taught artist and illustrator, which is flippin' impressive. He's done art for role-playing games such as several editions of Dungeons & Dragons, Paranoia, Battletech, and Spelljammer. I think I know his art best from Spelljammer.
You're a big fan of that game, aren't you?
I only played one campaign of it, but I flippin' loved it. And I think it's really nice, evocative art. I could go into a Spelljammer rant, or not rant, but I'll talk about Spelljammer, but I'm not going to because this is not the time. But the Art of Jim Holloway Facebook group, which is run by his son, has asked fans to share their favourite illustrations and to really show the outpouring of respect and love that he garnered throughout his storied career. And our thoughts are with the family at the time.
Of course.
And Jim Holloway, you will be missed.
Indeed, some excellent illustrations, and our thoughts with his family at this difficult time. Jamie, on to some awards news. You do love yourself some awards news.
Well, it's my niche in the podcast, isn't it? I am the awards and finance man, it seems. It has been the Dice Tower Awards, the 13th Dice Tower Awards, as part of the recent Dice Tower Summer Spectacular. Now, the winners were arrived at after voting from over 70 contributors to the Dice Tower network. Now, I'm pretty sure Dice Tower is the biggest board game network on YouTube, I would say. It's one of the pantheon.
It must be, because it's not like a single individual or like two or three individuals like something like Shove and Sit Down or No Pun Included. It's massive. They're putting out content pretty much all the time. I think at one point Tom Vassell basically stated that their aim was to make sure every single board game that releases is covered, and they must come pretty close to that with the level of contribution they have.
Tell you what, that is a very bold statement.
Yeah.
And you can applaud their efforts for that.
It's a bold ambition, and they certainly do put out a lot of content, a lot of different people on there.
For the Dice Tower Awards, nothing really sweeps the board, which has actually been quite interesting, because we have seen several other games, various games sweep it recently. But there's a good selection of games. There's, very heavier strategy games, big production, and the smaller, lighter, kind of almost filler games. Not really, but it's a really nice wide kind of range. Now, Wingspan did win the most awards, including Game of the Year and Best Game from a New Designer. one of our favourites, Watergate, won the best 2-player game, which I'm pretty happy about, because I love that. And I'd also like to make comment of Parks winning best artwork. Now, Parks is a game that Ian C. and I have played, and quite enjoyed, actually. Yeah, it was quite a mellow kind of Tokaido-esque vibe in that it's relaxing, but also quite cutthroat. And the art of the various national parks is part of an art project, I suppose, from various artists, and some of them are just gorgeous. I mean, we played the game, and then we spent a good 20 minutes afterwards going, let's look at all the parks. Wow, some of these are amazing. A lot of them were. So,
Jamie, is that cheating, using art from like a massive art project in your board game and then getting the best artwork award? Is that cheating?
Some might argue yes, but also there is also the artwork of the game itself, which is not part of the art project, and is gorgeous as well. And it's really lovely and evocative themes. Very stark contrast between, say, the howling desert and like the lovely waterfall or something like that. So there can be an argument made, but I would also go, well, look at the game itself. The pieces, they're gorgeous.
I haven't played Parks yet. I'd really like to because, I've heard a lot of good things about it. Yeah, I mean, I'm a little critical of the Dice Tower from time to time, but I really like the set of awards. There's a lot of good categories in there, covers a wide range of things, and like Jamie said at the top, it's a good range of games. There's light stuff, there's heavy stuff, there's small games, there's big games. There's all sorts of things in there. So it's a really good list of awards. It's all from 2019, by the way, so it's all board games that were released in 2019. So yeah, go and check that out and see if you might find your next favourite game in there.
I'd like to make just a small addendum to what you said. You can be a little bit critical of the Dice Tower. I think you should be critical of everything, even the things you really like.
Yeah.
It builds, for me anyway, I think it builds a more rounded viewpoint that just going, I like this. Why? Because I like it. But if you go, why do you like it? What do you not like about it? And go, well, that's fair enough, because hey, the world would be really boring if everyone liked the same thing.
That's why I write about board games and I write reviews of board games. I love board games, therefore I criticize them, I critique them, and I look at them through that lens.
Do you, Ian? Wait, you like board games? Have you ever thought about doing a podcast or something?
Nah.
Fair enough.
These chats aren't recorded, right?
No. Only you, I, the Russians, the Chinese, and MI6 is listening.
Fantastic. Hi, chaps. How you doing?
So, Ian, yes, don't worry, not being recorded, but recorded is a pretty good score on Scrabble, isn't it? It's not amazing, but it's quite good.
Yes, it's a very good score, but at least it's not offensive, because Scrabble is now banning a bunch of words for being offensive. They are banning 225 words from competitive Scrabble tournaments. This is the result of an agreement between Hasbro and North American Scrabble Players Association, or NASPA, which I didn't realise existed and pleases me no end. The group solely responsible for the rules and governance regarding competitive Scrabble around the world.
The sole group.
Yeah.
So if you do any competitive Scrabble, and some people give Scrabble a hard time, some people understandably, but also it's really popular.
Oh, yeah.
And World Scrabble, I mean, come on.
I mean, whenever we talk about board game sales and a hobby game selling well, it must be nothing in comparison to Scrabble sales or Monopoly sales or whatever. Just massively above. Anyway.
Words fail me.
Well, then you'd be terrible at Scrabble, wouldn't you?
I am.
Hasbro hasn't printed any slurs or offensive words in their Scrabble dictionaries since 1994. While NASPA controls the word list for tournaments, Hasbro are the ones who provide the lexicon that forms the basis for all versions of Scrabble.
Now, that also includes digital versions as well.
Yeah.
So because it means that they've now come to an agreement, it could see that digital versions will also see these words, hopefully, being dropped as well.
Does it mean we'll get special digital versions with all the naughty words in it?
Well, I believe it's September 1st is when the big change will happen. So you have until then.
You have until then to spell arse on a Scrabble board. That's one of them.
I thought you said this was a family-friendly podcast, and you're polluting with this filth from your mouth.
If only they hear what isn't recorded. In the 1990s, anti-Semitic terms were removed from the Scrabble dictionary after the Anti-Defamation League successfully lobbied Hasbro. Nice little fact there. The words will, as Jamie says, the words will no longer be playable in sanctioned Scrabble games from September the 1st, 2020. Fascinating stuff. Anyway, Jamie, a little closer to home, or well, more accurately, a little closer to my home, there is some things being cooked up in a lab.
Yes, games being cooked up in a lab, a games lab in Edinburgh. It's called the Edinburgh Games Lab.
Funny
Based
that.
at the Edinburgh. I know, it's amazing. Oh, it's amazing. My segues, amazing.
The way that people name things just blows me away every time.
Yes, based at Edinburgh University's School of History, Classics and Archaeology, we have the History and Games Lab. Now, their aim is to explore games, both analog and digital, as a medium for historical research, teaching, and public understanding of history. Through regular seminars, podcasts, workshops, game design, playtests, and participation at gaming events. Now, the History and Games Lab strives both to embed gaming into the courses that they offer at the School of History, Classics and Archaeology, and to study how games represent historical themes. Now, as well as historical game studies within historical methodology, being a part of the MSc in History that is offered, the History and Games Lab is soon going to be offering a postgraduate course in historical game design, which is going to be taught in conjunction with Edinburgh Futures Institute. Now, they also currently have a Kickstarter project on the run called Fall of the King, I believe about a battle in, 1249. I'm going to embarrass myself and assume that. Let's see if it is 1249. 1249!
Well done.
The Battle of Fossalta, a key event in the crusade against the Holy Roman Emperor Frederick II.
And interestingly, that Kickstarter mentions a game system, so it looks like they might have something established that allow them to investigate other historical battles using the same game system.
Yes, it's the Ventura battle system.
And I believe, in fact, I've had this confirmed, that our friends at Bad Cat Games, who are a local games company, are involved with this. So they've been helping out run some sort of seminars and sort of playtest sessions and that kind of thing.
I would love to have them on the podcast, I have to say, Ian.
I first heard about it from Bad Cat about 4 or 5 months ago, and it's been at the back of my mind to do something with that information. So now they're sort of up and running. Yeah, I think it'd be interesting to get them on and talk about sort of the role of games in teaching and history and that kind of thing. So yeah, we'll definitely do that.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite an easy question, but I'd like to ask them about GMT games. Because, as GMT games' kind of shtick is take moments from history, make a game out of them.
Indeed.
For better, better or for ill. But yeah, I want to see how they found the different games, the different systems. There's like the coin systems for Fire in the Lake, for example, is for teaching, for example, that's kind of historical games.
Yeah.
But it is history, so I'm talking rubbish. Compared to something like 1960, Making of a President. Now, that wasn't GMT made, but I know it's part now under GMT Games. So, or
something like Watergate we were talking about earlier, which has got some obviously historical context and does teach a little bit as it goes. So yeah, that's really good stuff.
But, yeah, hopefully we might have them on the podcast very soon, and if not, I might see if I can nip over to Edinburgh when things calm down and go, hi, interview? Or actually, you know what, Ian, you live in Edinburgh. You could go and interview them. Anyway, Ian, you've got some news from the gaming empire that is Asmodee.
Yes, hot, fresh news just out of the oven. We just learnt about this about half an hour before we came on to record.
Burning my fingers on it.
Yeah, it might set fire to the big piles of paper that are around here. It's really quite hot. So earlier today, so that's the 16th of July, Asmodee have announced that they are buying the French publisher Libellud. I hope I pronounced that correctly. They are responsible for such smash hits as Dixit and Mysterium. Régis Bonasset, the founder of Libellud, told the press, "For 12 years, we've been developing innovative games to inspire people's imaginations to share and dream, ultimately leading to the creation of unique universes. The Asmodee Group is a partner with whom we have been working since the beginning of our adventure, and which shares our values. We are very proud that Libellud joins the great Asmodee family, with many exciting new projects ahead of us." Bonasset is leaving Libellud as a result of the deal, with Matteo Albert taking over. I hope I've pronounced everyone's names right in that. So yeah, Asmodee continues to expand. Obviously, we've seen a couple of companies come away from Asmodee this year. And yeah, it's interesting to see them shifting focus, taking on some new publishers. And we'll see what that brings in the rest of the year.
And especially if you've got the gaming juggernaut that is Dixit.
Yeah.
Actually, and the gaming juggernaut that is Mysterium. Now, I'm ashamed to say I haven't played Mysterium, and I've only played Dixit once. But I played it with the Mysterium cards. So...
yeah, that works.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean,
but they're on their reputations alone.
yeah, they have a bunch of other games in there, Oeuvre, that are excellent, and they've won various awards. So I can see why Asmodee wanted to pick them up. There's obviously some talent at that company. Before we go, we'd like to give a little shout out to our executive producers, the Lucky Sparrow Gaming Cafe, who are back open. We would thoroughly encourage you, if you are in Glasgow or in the area, to go and give them a visit, buy a drink, have a sit, play a game. Jamie, you visited them the other day. How they doing?
I went down the other day to say hello because they give us money, and I'm eternally grateful to them for that. And it's good. They've got, as I said, they've got social distancing measures in place, but also means to play a game while maintaining a degree of distancing and separation.
Yeah, they're doing a great job. So yeah, please do go and support them if you can. You can also support us through our Patreon, but there are other ways to support us as well. Jamie, have you ever wanted new dice? Shiny new dice. Everybody wants shiny new dice, right?
I'm a role player, and one of the symptoms of role playing is uncontrolled need to always get dice, no matter how many dice you have, and no matter if you use the same dice again and again and again, you always want more.
Yeah, D6ophilia, it's a well-known condition. Well, wouldn't you love dice that you could throw at a man and knock him unconscious?
In a game, yes. In reality, no. But I'm guessing you've got some. What are they made of?
I do. Well, these ones are made of nickel and plated with zinc, and they are from Metallic Dice Games. And if you are very good, you can go to their site and get a little discount off their dice and various other accessories on there. They've got all sorts of dice and dice-related things on there. You can get 10% off with our discount code ROLLWITHBRAINS. That's all uppercase, all one word. ROLLWITHBRAINS, ROLLWITHBRAINS. We'll obviously put that in the show notes as well. We get a little cut of that as well, so it helps us out as well. And yeah, they're very, very good quality. I've got a little sample here beside me right now, and yeah, they're very nice.
Oh, Ian, can you give them a little shake and hold them up to the mic?
Hold.
Oh! These things are falling over. Ooh,
they're so metally.
Ooh, metallic. Ian, it's okay. It's okay. I think the new zertional dampener is calming down. It means my accent can go back to normal. Hello there.
Do you mean that you've employed a lot of interns to sort things out?
How dare you? I'm a miracle worker. And I have got some fresh, hot outro news for you that has nothing to do with Monopoly.
Well, that's just not good enough.
Well, tough. Take it up.
The only Monopoly news we found this week was fake.
Yes. Take it up with my union representative. Anyway, we have...
You have a union?
I have some news about a documentary that is available to rent and buy on iTunes. This is not an endorsement for Apple. This is an endorsement for the documentary called Gamemaster from director Charles Mruz, and the studio is Gravitas Ventures. Gamemaster is a documentary about board games and the people who make them, and the difficulties of getting games published. Now, the documentary follows 4 new aspiring board game designers and creators attempting to get into the industry and get their game published. Alongside that, there's interviews with board game design alumni, including Rainer Knizia, designer of so many games.
All the games. So many games.
All the games. Eric Lang, of course, Blood Rage and Rising Sun. Najra Balamganwala, designer of Arranged, a game about arranged marriage. And Matt Leacock, designer of the Pandemic series and the Forbidden series. That's Island, Desert, and Skies, not Stars. And now it is available to rent or buy on iTunes, as I said. Have a little look at it, check it out. It's quite good, I tell you.
Good clarification on the Forbidden there. Nice. Like it.
Good. Yeah, because I occasionally go, these Forbidden games, I like Forbidden Skies, Forbidden Deserts, Forbidden Stars. No, wait. Not Forbidden Stars.
Didn't quite get time for a Vox Pop this time because we didn't get our news doc sorted out in time, but we'll be putting a call out for that for the next one, hopefully. So keep an eye out on our Twitter and Facebook feeds, and you can get involved in the cast by responding to some questions through audio we just ask you to record them on a phone, or if you've got a rig at home, record it a little bit nicer. But we'll put out instructions for that a little closer to the time, in about a week or so, when we're preparing the next cast. For just now, thanks very much for listening. If you like what you've listened to, then the best way to help us out is to share the podcast and drop us a review and rating on iTunes. And please do that if you've got the time. It just really helps us out to drop us a quick rating. Just put 5 stars in there, everything's fine. You can also follow us on Twitter at The Giant Brain. Our Instagram is Giant Brain UK. Just search The Giant Brain on Facebook and you'll find us. Our website is giantbrain.co.uk. And you can email us about any bits of news you got or any comments you'd like us to read out on various news articles from previous shows at giantbrainuk@gmail.com. We'll be back next time, hopefully with a full cast. We'll find Ian somewhere underneath all this paper, probably.
He'll be fine. Don't worry about him. I'll go looking for him.
I think there's a tube coming out of that bit of paper over there. I think it might be a breathing hole. Maybe he's under there.
He's ever so resourceful.
Yeah.
He's ever so resourceful.
Yeah, it seems to be made out of biros. So, yeah. Good.
As I said, resourceful.
Very resourceful. Goodbye.
See you later.